Hello, and welcome to another Bucket List Gamers mini review. I am Jay, and for this one, I'm joined by Jack.
Hello.
And Jack hasn't actually played this one. We were going to meet up and play it, and fates conspired against us, and we didn't actually get a chance to. So I played it, which is the footage that you'll be seeing as you listen to us. Jack has watched that footage and some other little bits and bobs, and we're going to pass our judgment on this one. Before I get into the game itself, it took me about 10 minutes to get it actually working, which is never a good thing when you first boot a game up. Not to get too into it, but how our setup is at the minute is we play the games on a big screen TV. We've got a little monitor that we record on and all that kind of thing. And whenever you open a game, because the little monitor is the main screen, it opens on there and you have to change it to windowed mode, move it up onto the big TV and make it full screen again. This did not work well. The window mode didn't work at all when I clicked windowed. So then I tried to change the resolution and it made the image bigger than the screen it was on. And you have to click accept to change it back. So then I couldn't get to accept to change the resolution back to where I could see the full screen because it was off the bottom corner. So that took a while to sort out. I ended up sort of moving around with the arrow keys and sort of stumbled across the button and pressed enter and it shrunk it back down, thankfully. But yeah, that wasn't a great start. The other issue I had with it, I just don't think it is optimized at the minute. I think it probably needs a little bit more work. It was very stuttery. I had to turn VSync on straight away because the tearing and you'll probably have seen in the first minute of the footage was horrendous. As soon as I put the VSync on, it wasn't as bad, but there's definitely blur and tearing and stuff, and I just think it needs a little bit of tightening up. But we will caveat that with saying so it's been developed and published by Horror Engine Games, which is one person. So this whole thing's been made by one person, which I think is quite impressive. I wouldn't be able to do this. I know that for a fact. We've got to give credit for the fact that this isn't a big team of people that's making this. This is one person's project. So any sort of negatives we might give, we need to caveat with that essentially. But yeah, we got into it eventually, and I'll let you have first go on what your first impressions of it were watching the footage.
Yeah, so I mean, there wasn't a great deal to it from what I could actually see. First thing I picked up on was like the graphics were really nice, like the visuals on the game looked really nice and crisp.
Mm.
But like from a gameplay perspective, I think we had this conversation just before we started recording. Is we seem to get a lot of these like kind of PT kind of clones now, where it's all first person suspenseful games, but it just didn't seem to go anywhere.
No, it is in the early stages that you'll be seeing. It is very much like a walking sim. It's go here, interact with this object, which moves the plot along. Go here. I know further into the game, you start getting puzzles to solve, and it does become a bit more of a
Yeah,
game than a walking sim. But yeah, for the first 15 minutes at the very least, I mean, it'll get to it in the footage. There's a bit where I'm walking through multiple rooms, and you go in a door and then it sort of you get that screen blur of an old TV, and then you're back at the door you've just walked through and you go back into the room again. And things seem to be progressing, like some music started playing. I don't know if it was Ave Maria or something like that, which was really creepy. And then there was a weird, creepy laugh. And then this random bloke appeared for like a split second and then disappeared, which I don't know whether it was a glitch or it was meant to happen. And it felt like, oh, do I just keep going through doors? But then they started disappearing again if I went through what I perceive as the wrong door. So I don't know if there was a puzzle to solve there, but if there was no indication of how to solve it prior to it or in those rooms. And I don't know if I just muddled to a result or whether there's like you have to do 20 doors and it doesn't matter which 20 you do. If that was a puzzle, it wasn't signposted very well that there was a way to solve it.
yeah, it was quite funny to watch, to be honest with you, because I thought because the video was like 17 minutes long, and it must be about 10 minutes of you just going back and forward through the same door. So, and I was like, right, okay, so how long is this going to go on for? And then eventually, it just obviously, I think you end up back downstairs. So you've like kind of solved that puzzle. But obviously, I thought, well, I don't know how he's just done that. And then I spoke to you and you said, well, I didn't have a clue how I'd done
No,
it either.
no, I genuinely didn't, and I still to this point now don't know whether I did something right because it didn't. When it finished, it wasn't like the things layered up and then I got out. The music never started playing again. The bloke never showed up again. There was a sideboard that kept appearing and disappearing in the room that didn't really do anything. That seemed to be linked to the laugh. Whenever I heard the laugh, the sideboard was in the room again. And it wasn't like the sideboard appeared, I got the laugh, I got the music, something else happened, and then I got out. It was just like it just eventually decided to boot me out back into the real world. So no, I don't know if I did something right or whether it is just keep them walking around this bit. It wasn't nice because it was very dark and the creepy music was playing, and I'm not a big fan of jump scares and that kind of thing anyway. We sort of tolerated them when we played a couple of other games together, didn't we? And it was quite
Yeah.
funny when you were with somebody else. But this was about midnight. I was sat on my own in a relatively dark room, and I was like, I don't want anything to jump out on me. And the suspense, I will give them this: they have built a great level of suspense in this game because it constantly feels like something's going to get you. It constantly feels like something's going to jump out on you. It didn't very often, but when it did make me jump. Like even the little room change and the flicker on the TV when the first time it happened did make me jump a little bit. And you just constantly thinking something's going to come around the corner, something's going to jump out on me, and it didn't for the first 15 minutes, but I know it does further in the game. And yeah, I stopped playing eventually because I got enough footage, but I will probably go back to it and try and because I've seen people play it, so I know what is to come and what puzzles there are and that kind of thing. I watched that after I'd done it to see if I could figure out how the weird room puzzle was solved, and it seemed like everybody else just muddled through it as well, the same as I did. So it's an interesting one because it's like I say, single developer. I think they've done a good job with it. The graphics, as you say, it looks really nice. Now I know we played, well, Aaron played Baby Blues Nightmare on stream, and the house is identical. So I think it must be some sort of asset pack that you can get and change ever so slightly because the layout was a little bit different when Aaron played Baby Blues Nightmare. The upstairs had a bit more to it, I think, from what I remember, but it was you could very much tell it was the same house. There was a lot of similarities in it. Apart from the weird, I don't know if you noticed this when you were watching the footage, the door that didn't have a door frame to go into, it was just like stuck out in the middle of a hallway. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, there must be a door behind it. And then I went behind it and there was nothing there either. So I don't know if that's a mistake. It's just been left in.
There was a couple of things with doors as well because as you were trying to do the door puzzle, as we'll now call it, is that you kept getting sideswiped by the door
Yeah, it
because
did.
you kept getting too close to the door and it kept just smacking you into the wall.
If you step too far away from it when you're opening it, it slams shut. So you'll see quite a lot of times I go to open the door and it
Yeah.
comes so far out and then shuts. So you have to be quite close to it. But if you're too close to it, like you say, it slams you into a wall and you end up stuck behind it and you have to walk around it. So that caused me quite a few issues. I did think at one point some sort of ghostly entity was slamming the door after I was trying to open it. But then I realised it was just, oh, I'm not close enough and I need to wait for it to fully open. So there was that to it, and it did for a second give me a little bit of a jump scare. So I suppose it played in their favour in the end. But it's just, I don't think it's where it needs to be, and I don't think it is classed as early access. It is like a full release. And as I say, kudos to them for doing this on their own and getting a game to this level that is fully playable. It is completable. There was a bug in it, I think, when it first released that stopped you from finishing the game, but they fixed that within sort of hours of the release, and it all plays. You can play it to the end now. It does have a storyline, although I really struggle with what it is, even after watching other people go further than I did. I don't think the creator's first language is English, which I think is potentially part of the problem. But it's creepy enough. I'm not sure they needed to use AI voices, which they've clearly done. The little child's voice is clearly AI when you could have probably got someone to do it for free that wants the exposure. There is that, but I mean they're charging £4.29 for it, so they're not asking the world. Is it worth £4.29? I think if they polish out the issues with performance and that kind of thing, probably it's probably not a bad game, especially for streamers to play and stuff with the jump scares. I could see people getting a little bit of value out of that. It's one of those where I can't really recommend it at the minute because it was a bit of a chore to play with all the little performance issues.
It was going back to your point on it being quite tense. It's like I've watched it and I felt the same watching it.
Yeah,
So it was like you kind of like agreed, like you did kind of expect something to jump out at you. Like at the end of the video, I think it's where the table and chairs like float up, and that
Mm.
kind of caught me off guard. I expected something then to jump out, so it did keep me on edge quite a lot just watching it.
Yeah, I think they've done a great job with that, and I know that ramps up the further into it you get. The locations become creepier. There is this thing that starts chasing you, this entity that comes after you. But I think the description on Steam, it talks a lot about the memories and the lingering effects on a child's imagination from what they've watched on TV and stuff like this. And I just don't
Mm.
think any of that really comes through in the game. It looks like they've come up with this really good concept for it. It just needs to be embedded into the game a little bit more.
Yeah, it sounds like a great premise. To be fair, for like a storyline.
When we got given the key, so yeah, thank you by the way to Horror Engine Games for letting us play it and giving us a key to play it. I read that description, I was like, oh, this looks like it's going to be really good, and we'll get Aaron streaming it. And unfortunately, we didn't get him to stream it because there was other games we had to do on there. But the description was really good, and I got really excited to play it. And then I just don't feel like that carries through into the game. I think it probably just needs a few more text prompts, or if you've got that diary with you at all times, but all it really does is give you really vague instructions as to what to do. Like at one point, I think it says go and hide in a room, but it doesn't tell you which room or where. And I think I just stumble into the right room straight away rather than going and looking around some other ones. So that could be a bit clearer, but I think they could use that diary to give you a bit more plot and a bit more backstory and make it a bit more. And I think there is a little bit more of it the further in you get, but I think it needs more in the early stages as well to really hook you in. Because I think after 15 minutes, what I've played and what you guys are seeing, some people would just stop and go, "Oh, there's not enough in this for me." Whereas I think if you put a bit more of that storyline in the early stages, because it's clearly building up to more tension and more jump scares, which it does really well, there just isn't that hook, I don't think, at the minute. As a verdict, I would say it's promising. I think if this is the first game that they've made, which as far as I can see on Steam it is, there's a good chance once they get a little bit more to grips with how to do this kind of thing, I think they'll do really good things based on the ones we've played in the past. I mean, like Overdose, for example, the one in the asylum that we played, which the video is on YouTube if you want to go and check it out.
Well, this is
That
like, yeah, sorry. This is like the first game we played. What was the one that we first played where we were in the school?
oh, the crime one. Yeah, I can't remember the
Yeah,
exact name of it.
and
Yeah,
it's
that's
like it's a lot better than that. Even I didn't. I
mm.
mean, obviously, I didn't play this. I was watching you play it, and I can tell you it's a lot better than that one.
That did give us a few jump scares and there was a bit of tension, but I feel like this is just a level above that in terms of
Yeah,
the building the fear. It looks nicer than that did, I think. It won't, I'm assuming, well, it is sort of the same thing that's chasing you around all the time, but it's meant to be, whereas that was just, that one felt a bit lazy and it was sort of like, we've got this one enemy, we're just going to keep spawning that and that's it.
yeah. That was the problem with that one. Really, is that once you got those first couple of like jump scares out of the way, then it was just like, well, you're just going to keep throwing the
Yeah.
same thing at me, and it just didn't. Then it just completely lost all value.
And then also the ending made literally no sense, which unfortunately we didn't capture on film. But this at least has a cohesive plot, even if there isn't that much of it in there. You can sort of see where it's going with it. So yeah, I think promising things to come, hopefully, from Horror Engine Games, and this is just the first one. Not charging a lot for it. If you do want to check it out, maybe stream it if you are a streamer. But I would probably wait until there's been a few little updates to fix some of the stability issues and that kind of thing with it. But again, thank you to them for giving us a key, and we will see you on the next one. So that's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Daddy didn't check under my bed last night. A person is watching me in the corner.